Madam Speaker, I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight about a grave problem involving our immigration system and injustice done to a number of well-meaning students who came to this country with the best of intentions, who were victims of fraud and are now being re-victimized by this government. I want to start tonight just by recognizing the leadership of the Ontario Gurdwaras Committee and my friends at the Malton Gurdwara in particular, who brought this issue to my attention and helped facilitate interactions for me with a number of the students that were affected by this. So what happened in these cases we're talking about is that students were given fake acceptance letters to real colleges here in Canada by an unscrupulous consultant in India. Those students thought they had received real acceptance letters. They provided those fake acceptance letters to Canadian immigration. And for whatever reason, Canadian immigration failed at detecting this fraud. They didn't verify with the colleges, I suspect. They issued real visas based on fake acceptance letters. And then these students came to Canada. And when they got to Canada, these students were told, oh, there's a mix-up, the school's full, but the students knew that as a condition of their visa, they had to go to school right away. So these consultants then offered them another opportunity with a smaller, less well-known college. They said, well, you can study over here instead. So these students came to Canada. They were duped through no fault of their own. They put a lot of money into being able to come into Canada, and in many cases, these were poor families who would have sacrificed enormously to allow a member of their family to be able to come to Canada and have this opportunity. These students came here, they studied, in many cases they got work permits, and then just as they were applying for permanent residency, the government somehow found what had in fact been the government's own error. The government was able to look back and say, oh, actually we screwed up. We gave you real visas on the basis of fake acceptance letters. And so these students have been threatened with deportation. So there's a question of the fairness to these students, but there's also a fundamental question of the integrity of our immigration system. How did this screw up happen? Let's make sure these students are taken care of, but let's also address how such a massive screw up took place. That somebody simply photoshopping an acceptance letter, a fake acceptance letter, which should be a pretty easy thing to do, was able to fool immigration potentially hundreds of times, and I'd like an answer to that.
First of all, I think collectively, all members of this House are generally concerned about the situation that have arisen over the last few months, and I can assure my member, the member opposite, that actually all parliamentarians, and I would say several members on this side of the government, have been strong advocates on this. So definitely, we're here today to announce that we will continue to advocate for those that are victims of frauds, and our government is taking every action.
I would just put two follow-up points to the parliamentary secretary. The first is, it took far too long for the government to respond at all. Those who were involved and victims of this had been meeting and trying to engage with local Liberal MPs in the Greater Toronto area for a long time to get a resolution, and it shouldn't have taken questions and question period to get the government to change course on this. So I'm glad the official opposition was able to lead on this, but it should not have taken so long for the government to act. But I also would like to hear an answer on how this happened in the first place. I think we need to know not just the issue of justice for the students, although that's critically important, but also how was there such a significant hole in our immigration system's integrity? Is the Parliamentary Secretary trying to get to the bottom of how this happened?